So I'm going to get started. But again, chapter 5 and 6, the outline is there on the topics page. I think it does make it a little easier for everyone to follow along. Okay, here we go. Let's start off chapter 5. He talks about necessities. And just realize necessities tend to be inelastic. Why? Because you need them. So if you think of insulin, if you think of medicine, I mean, these are things you need for life. So even if price goes up, quantity demanded is going to go down a little. Where luxuries are more elastic. And the reason being you don't need them. If you want to buy a yacht and the price goes up too much, people just don't need yachts. So, and a lot of times we would think eating out is a luxury. Some of us don't think like that because we eat out a lot. But you're not going to have to really determine what's necessities and luxuries. However, just know necessities are generally inelastic and luxuries are generally elastic. Now, if you have a lot of close substitutes, like soda has a lot of close substitutes, it's going to be more elastic. Why? Because like if the price of Pepsi goes up, I could buy Coke, I could buy orange soda. There's so many different things I could buy that quantity demanded is going to go down a lot. All right. Now, this is kind of sometimes counterintuitive, the definition of the market. The more narrow the market, the more elastic. The more narrow the market, the more elastic. And then a broad view of the market is inelastic. Now, let's take food. That's a big, broad thing. It's inelastic because food is a necessity. However, if I narrow it down to ice cream is elastic. And the reason is there's a lot of substitutes for ice cream. So the broad thing, food, tends to be more inelastic, and the narrow market, ice cream, tends to be more elastic. And then time. Time usually makes everything more elastic. All right. And that's especially for supply because producers like to build a new factory. That takes time. To build more houses, that takes time. So, especially with supply, time makes things more elastic. All right. Now, you don't need to know the midpoint method. Okay. You need to know the method I taught you, percentage change of quantity demanded over percentage change in price. You do not, I repeat, you do not need to know the midpoint method. Okay. All right. That being said, the graph of elasticity, right? Now, both supply and demand, like an eye, is perfectly inelastic. All right. So it's perfectly, and I'll just write P elastic. Okay. And horizontal, perfectly elastic. This is a coefficient 0, and this is the coefficient infinite. Okay. I don't think you need to know the coefficients, to be honest. Right now, I would know perfectly inelastic is 0. All right. But now, the thing that I do see, and I saw this on the practice test a lot, is asking you, so you know, supply, it's elastic, in the middle, unit elastic, and then elastic. And let's see, could I get this to work like this? And then looking from the demand curve point of view, we have elastic on the top, in the middle, inelastic, doesn't have to be the equilibrium. It's about the midpoint of the line. And that's unit rather than the middle unit elastic. All right. It's not really a good. So in the middle, you're going to have, not letting me write. In the middle, you're going to have unit elastic, and then you're going to have inelastic. Now, we'll get to the total revenue. So, all right. So that's what you need to know. Perfectly inelastic, perfectly elastic, relatively elastic, both supply and demand curve, and you go from elastic unit inelastic on the supply, from elastic to unit inelastic on the demand. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, please just fire them into the chat. Yeah, no, you need to know the equations for demand and supply elasticity, income elasticity, and cross price elasticity. And you do need to know, like, are they substitutes and complements, inferior or normal goods? Sabi, could you wait till we're done and I'll answer all questions on the practice test? Is that okay?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. So then you get total revenue and price elasticity. That's the next thing. So price up, total revenue up. Price down, total revenue down, inelastic. Price up, total revenue up. Price down, total revenue down, inelastic. When there's an inverse relationship, like price up, total revenue down, or price down, total revenue up, elastic. All right. Now, I guarantee you there's a question on your quiz like that. They just love the total revenue question. All right. So price up, total revenue up, price down, total revenue down, inelastic. Inverse relationship, price up, total revenue down, elastic. Price up or down, total revenue the same, unit elastic. Now, unit elastic is where the highest total revenue is. I'll explain that, I hope, in a second. Yeah. If this is unit elastic, and the next point on the demand curve is inelastic, well, if the price goes down, total revenue goes down. So that spot has to be lower than unit elastic. If I go to the left, the elastic part, if price goes up, total revenue goes down there. So unit elastic is the highest total revenue spot. Okay. Now, I might like say something here. Say they said, you could say something in part A of the line, if price goes up, what happens to total revenue? So you know that in elastic, if price goes up, total revenue goes down. So you have to know both that it's the elastic part of the curve and that if price goes up, total revenue will go down. I would expect a question like that if I was you guys. All right. The next thing he talks about is income elasticity. All right. And that's percentage change of quantity demand over percentage change in income. Percentage change of quantity demanded over percentage change of income. Remember, quantity demanded is always up top. Positive is a normal good, negative is an inferior good. Positive is a normal good, negative is an inferior good. Now, for the elasticity of demand, it's percentage change of quantity demanded over percentage change in price. Percentage change of quantity demanded over percentage change in price. Here, it's an absolute value greater than 1 elastic, less than 1 inelastic, 1 unit elastic. So the formula again for the demand elasticity is percentage change of quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. Greater than 1 elastic, 1 unit elastic, less than 1 inelastic, absolute value. We did the income, and income you need to know about positive and negative coefficient. Cross price elasticity. Percentage change in quantity demanded of A, quantity demanded is always on the top, over percentage change in the price of B. Percentage change of quantity demanded of A over percentage change of price of B. Positive, substitute. Negative, complement. So cross price could only tell you substitutes and complements. Income can only tell you normal and inferior goods. A normal good, demand up, or rather income up, demand up, income down, demand down. They could tell you normal and inferior. Inferior, income up, demand down. All right, and then demand elasticity can only tell you if the line is elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic. Okay. And then supply and its determinants. Again, what there is how quantity demanded, how quantity supplied reacts to a change in price. How quantity supplied acts to a change in price. And then the formula there is, again, instead of quantity demanded on top, you could have percentage change in quantity supplied over percentage change in price. Percentage change in quantity supplied over the percentage change in price. And again, you could have like elastic, kind of unit elastic, and inelastic on your supply curve. All right. You don't have to know about the farmers. You don't need to really know about OPEC. All right. So that was really chapter 5. Now I'll go over chapter 6. Then I would, I'll take any questions you either have on the practice quiz or any questions you would have on anything else. All right. So controls on prices. So government intervenes to correct the market. Government intervenes to correct the market. So with a price floor, government thinks prices are too low and they need to raise the prices to either help producers or help workers with minimum wage. On a price ceiling, government thinks the prices are too high and they're trying to help, like with gas, by keeping prices down or rent control. Okay? All right. So let's see what I have here in this graph. All right, this is a non-binding price ceiling. Remember, for a ceiling to be binding, it has the upside down house. It has to be below the equilibrium. When it's non-binding like this, all we're going to do is go back to the equilibrium price and quantity. So it's like that ceiling isn't there. So if they ask you, is there a shortage or a surplus? There's neither, because quantity supplied is 100, quantity demand is 100, the price is 3. All right? First thing you do on any of these questions is is it binding or not binding? So here is my binding price ceiling. It's binding because it's below the equilibrium. All right. I look here, I'm going to have a shortage. I don't have to memorize this. People want 125. I only got 75. All right. Now, can the price creep up to the equilibrium? No, because it's a price ceiling. That is the maximum. $2 is the maximum you could charge. All right. You could charge less than $2, but that's the maximum you could charge. And that's going to create a shortage. All right. I guess I'll talk about rent control because it has a separate thing. Now, for the gas, because it says line, what happens when this was done with gas is that you had a shortage. So you had long lines at the gas station, or you didn't have gas. Okay. Like the gas station didn't have gas. Who did it help? It helped the people who could get gas at a cheap price, who might have got there first and didn't have to wait online. Okay. And by the way, even though we've went over consumer and producer surplus, it is not in this chapter. So for this quiz, you will not have to know the consumer and producer surplus. Now, rent control is a price ceiling. And this is kind of like, if you remember, I said at the beginning, when things are in the short run, things are more inelastic. Okay. Now, for two reasons. One, the suppliers, like, they're not going to get rid of their apartments. Like, they've rented their apartments out. So they got to live with that until leases expired. So the supply of apartments are going to stay the same. As far as demand, some people don't have leases and they're going to run to those lower rent. But most people are leasing apartments and they too have to wait for their leases to go out. So for a while, even though prices of rent are lower, suppliers or demanders can't react, and that's why the shortage is very small. However, what happens in demand now is, okay, I got out of my lease. I see this very inexpensive apartments. I'm going to go get them. On the other hand, the landlords, two things happen here. The landlords, one, say, I'm not making enough money. I'm certainly not going to build more apartments. And matter of fact, maybe I'll change my apartment house to something else that I can make more profit. Or I'll still rent out these apartments, but I am not going to have the upkeep. So, yeah, you're going to get a cheaper apartment, but the quality of that apartment is not going to be as good. Okay. So in the long run, again, less upkeep, lower quality. Okay. But a tremendous demand because people are out of their leases and they want to take a benefit of this cheaper housing. All right. Now, I mean, price floor, that's not binding. It's got to be the upside down house. Again, here it'd be 3 and 100. I just wipe out the price floor like it's not there. There is no shortage. There is no surplus because quantity supplied equals quantity demand at equilibrium. Here's my binding one. Okay. Again, I don't have to memorize anything. I'm supplying, say, 120 workers, and only 50 are working. I know this says ice cream, but minimum wage is the one that I think is used more for a price floor. Remember, minimum wage, the supply is the workers, the demand is the firms demanding workers. So here you have a surplus. You have 120 workers, but you only have firms wanting 80 jobs. So those 40 would be unemployed. All right. Now, this is still good for the people who have jobs. They're getting paid like $4 instead of $3. But, the 40 people who are unemployed get hurt by this. All right. He then looked at evaluating control. Here is your minimum wage on labor. Okay, I didn't realize. Okay, if you see there's the equilibrium. When you put in the minimum wage, you're hiring quality demanded is less. So you're even having less people work than you originally did. All right. More people want to work than ever before, and less people are working. All right. All right. The next section is evaluating controls. So most economists are against price controls because they go against the invisible hand. They produce inefficiencies, deadweight loss, inefficiencies. So they go against the invisible hand. They produce inefficiencies. And like things like rent control, you have less quality apartments, minimum wage, you have less people working. All right. All right. Then you get to taxes. All right. So the tax incident is who is bearing the burden, the consumers or the producers. And remember, whichever line is more inelastic is going to bear the burden. All right. So just want to go over this. I think we all know it's a leftward supply shift. Okay. The line from new equilibrium down to the old supply curve, that's how much the tax is. So from 330 down to 280, the tax is 50 cents. Okay. Total tax is 50 cents. The next question they could ask you is how much of that tax is the consumer paying? Well, the consumer used to pay $3 and is now paying $3.30. They're paying 30 cents. If I know the consumer is paying 30, the producer must be paying 20. If I take this line down and all the way across, that's what the producer's getting after tax. Okay. I don't have a calculator handy, but if they ask you for the total revenue, you know, I mean the total expenditures first, it'd be price times quantity. They ask you for total revenue after tax, it'd be price times quantity minus the tax. I don't see. I could see them asking you for total, total revenue before tax. I don't really see on this quiz total revenue after tax. Okay. I'm going to bring up this 6 first. Savi asked about that. And then if you have any questions either on the quiz or anything else,
Mr. Gressler,
but yes.
I believe it was just like a mistake because on that one it says I think you say number 3, for a price ceiling to be binding, it would have to be set, and you said between 6 and 9.
All right. For price ceilings to be binding in this market, it would have to be any price below 6.
Okay. See, that's what I put. But
sorry, I'm not sure.
That's what the answer key says, Savi.
The answer key says what?
A, right?
No, the answer key says, oh yeah, it does.
Did you just get mixed up?
Yeah, I just got mixed up with 2 questions. That's all.
Okay, no problem. Anyone have any questions on Chat seemed to disappear here. Anyone have any questions on chapter 6? Practice quiz, anything on chapter 6?
Can we go over number 4?
Yeah. Okay. Let me scroll and get number 4. All right. Propose a price ceiling of $5. All right. My first question when I go to $5, is this price ceiling binding? Yes, it's below the house. I mean, it's below the equilibrium. All right. Now, 4 price ceiling, price was 6. They were selling 50. So customer expenditure, which is price times quantity, was 6 times 50, which equals 300. Okay. Now, after the price ceiling, 5, only supplying 40. They're charging $5. So I'm going to do the price times quantity. Price is 5 times 40, and that's going to be 200. Okay. So the answer is going to be buyer's total expenditure decreased by 100. It was 300. It's now 200. That decreased by 100. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Any other things in chapter 6 or practice quiz 6 before I go to practice quiz question 12? And let me just erase this, and then I'll scroll down to question 12. That's the one with the chart, right? Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. Can we keep the chart? Who's the government? All right. The first thing I'm going to do here is find the equilibrium. The equilibrium 6 equals 6 is at $3. So suppose they impose a price floor of $5. All right. The floor is above the equilibrium, it's binding. What shall this be the size of surplus? At $5, I'm supplying 10 units. People are only demanding 2. The surplus is C as in Caroline, 8 units. Tino, did that make sense to you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this chapter before, again, I move to chapter 5, number 6? Yes, I can. Let me just see, do I have number 6 over here on mine? Okay, yeah. I'm glad you for this one. So if government removes a binding price, all right. So here we are, we've got supply, we've got demand, and we've got the binding price ceiling. Okay? All right. So the first thing we know is if government removes the price ceiling, we're going to go to the equilibrium. The price is going to go up, right? Because we're going to go from the price ceiling, and that's going to get erased. Now, in moving to the equilibrium, we're going to move from, say here, point A, point B. Quantity supplied is going to increase, right? It's going to go from down here over here. And that makes sense, right? Because when price increases, quantity supply increases. And then on the other side, quantity demanded is going to go from C to B. quantity demanded, the decrease. So the answer would be the price paid by the buyers will increase, the quantity, oh, and the quantity sold in the market will increase. You were selling originally at A, now you're selling B. Did that make sense, Nick?
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
just gave, when I went through all this analysis on the side, I think that's what they could ask you in the future. Like what happens to the quantity supplied or quantity demanded.
Yeah, I forgot to just go straight to the equilibrium. So
Okay. And that's why we're here. Hey, so what do you want me to explain about rent control? Do you want me to explain that it's a price ceiling and it creates a shortage?
Like relating to question 7.
Ah, okay. Sure. Oh, it's just the price ceiling because it's the maximum you could charge for rent. Is that what
Okay.
7 is? Rent control? Yeah, serves as an example of a price ceiling. It's B as in broccoli. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this one before I flip to chapter 5? Good questions. All right. Do I have notes here on chapter 5? All right. Let's see if we get chapter 5 up. This is practice. Yeah, there we go. All right. Any questions on chapter 5 or the practice quiz? Number 5. If that's the demand one, oh no, number 5. Let's refer to figure 5.7. Okay. So 6. All right. So it's saying for prices below $6, demand is, I mean, I'm going to guess that 8 is the spot there, but prices below $6, and that's we go, the line's going to go elastic. I would say that black dot is unit elastic if I was guessing. Elastic, right? So I know that below $6 is the inelastic. So A, C, and D is gone. So that leaves me B and D. Inelastic, total revenue rises as price rises. So it's going to be B as in broccoli, because in an inelastic good, when price goes up, total revenue goes up. That makes sense, Nick?
yeah, it does. I
And
don't know what I was doing, but I was doing
okay.
the total revenue calculations, and I don't know, I must have put them in wrong because the price was going down.
Did you go down by mistake?
I think so.
If you go down, total revenue will go down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's probably what you did. You probably went from 6 to 4, and they both went in the same direction, but you kind of forgot about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what I did.
Okay. Um, any other questions on chapter 5? I mean, no one's going to ask me about question 7. Yeah, I think question 7's a hot mess. All right. I'm going to answer question 7 and probably the most confusing way possible, but no. Let me get my pen out here. All right. So both of them go down 10%. I know cheddar is inelastic, right? I also know it's percentage change quantity demanded over percentage change price. All right. Now, if cheddar is inelastic, I know it went down 10%. It's greater than 1. It has to be on the bottom below 10%. I mean, it could be 9.99, but it's got to be below 10%. To be elastic, it has to be greater than 1. All right, I know that. Now, what's the other one here? Bread is cheddar inelastic? I'm sorry. And if cheddar is inelastic, this is my bad. I mixed them up. If cheddar is inelastic, then it has to be less than 1. So then it has to be greater, right, than 10. It's got to be less than 1. It's got to be at least 11. Now, the bread is the elastic, right? And again, we got 10 on the top. Bread, it's got to be 9 because this has to be greater than 1. So when the answer there is the change in equal price will be greater in the age cheddar because it takes a bigger price. If they're both, and you can think of it this way without going through the formula, if they're both decreasing by the same 10%, it's going to take a bigger change in price to increase the inelastic, because inelastic's insensitive. So you're going to have a greater change in the price of the inelastic good to get quantity demanded to change the same as the elastic good. Nick, did that anyway help you?
Yeah, I understood the question, but I think the key answer was wrong. It said it was A, and I put B because
No,
the change.
it is because there's a greater change in the aged cheddar cheese because it takes a greater change in the price of cheddar because cheddar's inelastic. Like here's the cheddar change. That's an 11% change in price, and this is only a 9%.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand.
Okay. All right. Like if you plug these into the equations, like cheddar is inelastic. So 10 quantity demanded is a percentage change of 10%. It has to be greater than 10% change in price because this has to be less than 1 to be inelastic. Does that make sense? That part?
Oh, yeah, I got it now. Thank you.
Okay. Now this one, bread has to be less than 10. Therefore, cheddar's price is going to be greater. Mike, they both could be inelastic. They both could be elastic. It's not if one's inelastic, the other's elastic.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I do think like these scenarios are going to pop up, but I think it's going to be more like question 8, where where it just has the equilibrium quantity, and that's a negative supply shift, so the quantity will decrease. Okay. Number 9. Okay. Tina, number 9's double shifter. So, excuse me for not labeling things, but it's really hard for me to draw on this. All right. So if I shift demand, since it's an increase in supply and demand, the price up, quantity up. Okay. And then got to shift supply, separate graph. It's a double shift. I need both my graphs. It's an increase of supply, so to go right, to be priced down, quantity up. So I know the quantity is going up. What I don't know is what's going to happen to price. So we'll have an indeterminate for E, right? Because we don't know what's going to go on with price, but we do know there's an equilibrium increase in quantity. So, did that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense now. Thank you.
Okay. Man, those double shifters come to haunt you. Any other questions? On the last, this seemed like a couple of questions on total revenue, inelastic, elastic to figure out the total revenue. There also seem like you have to know, like demand goes elastic, unit elastic, inelastic, and supply goes elastic, unit elastic, inelastic. Okay. Any other questions on this? 8, yeah.
Yeah, my question is, wouldn't it, because like specifically the thing, because it's like a resource for both of them, so it just decrease the both markets.
Yeah. So what's going to decrease?
Wouldn't
curve is going to shift?
Wouldn't both markets decrease? So we'd have
yeah. So you'd have supply decreasing.
Supply would shift left for both.
Right. So quantity is going to decrease in both markets, right?
Yes.
So you should get
D, correct?
Yeah, that's the answer. D as in dogwood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I will be in the ARC for a lot of periods tomorrow. Probably pretty much almost every period except third. I'll also be in my room at 7:45 if you have any other questions. Okay. Otherwise, thank you for coming on tonight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I hope those who kind of had a day off